I took to Twitter yesterday and cut a clip from our reaction of Billy Napier being fired, and I said, hey, listen, I think Eli Drinkwitz checks some boxes. And the Florida fans were not happy about that at all. So I want to just kind of re-rack this conversation and talk about who could be the next head coach at Florida. I want to do that with our very own two-time All-Sun Belt safety, alley runner extraordinaire, your mama's favorite producer, and also, I hate to say this is going to hurt a lot of people's feelings, your girlfriend's favorite producer, Kaiden Smith. Kaiden, what's up, baby? How we doing?
Flattered. I'm doing flattered after that intro.
You look good, man. I'm not going to lie to you.
You keep leveling it up. You know me. When it gets cold, I can put the comfy clothes on. The wardrobe gets opened up a little bit more. So I'm excited for our audience to continue to see the fits I'll be throwing.
The trick plays, man.
From here up.
The fits I'll be throwing. That's good stuff.
More fits than a newborn.
I don't know how to regroup from that. I got 3 categories, Kate, I want to throw your way.
Ooh.
And then I want to hear where you fall on this.
Okay.
There is the call and make them say no category.
Yes.
It's Marcus Freeman.
Yeah.
It's Marcus Freeman. If you can get him away from Notre Dame, more power to you. That dude's it factor behind that logo with those resources. People were talking about what you can't do at Notre Dame and saying, well, it's a tough place to recruit to because of academic standards, and you got to go out of the SEC to get to, SEC country rather, to get to South Bend. And all he's done is recruit and win and be a culture builder, something that Florida would be ridiculous to not at least give that dude a call. So you call and you make Marcus Freeman say no.
Yeah, I think he's like the top end. Like we'll probably see more jobs open up here, and I'm curious how many people just try to throw themselves at Marcus Freeman, for lack of a better word. I think he gets a Kirk Cignetti kind of extension here soon to where they try to lock him up. Because you mentioned how hard it is to make it work at Notre Dame and how unique of a place it is. And I think Marcus has just done that with such flying colors, bringing them to a national championship game last year where people didn't really expect it, and now making that the expectation and building on that. I think there's only one place in the country Marcus Freeman would potentially leave Notre Dame for, and that's his alma mater, Ohio State. So, Yes, he's on the must-call list, but I think I don't think any fan base with a head coach opening, no matter how high up they feel like their program is getting Marcus Freeman out of South Bend personally.
I am calling him to the level where I'm getting my number blocked. I'm getting a new phone calling him, then getting that number. I'm getting a restraining order before I let Marcus Freeman not take this job. So that's category 1. Second category is suspect number 1 and who the fans want. And I get this. I think this maybe got misconstrued yesterday. I get that Florida wants Lane Kiffin. I understand. I would want Lane Kiffin if I was a Florida fan. He'd be awesome there. If you could make it work, which is the big caveat there, if you will give him the keys and let him operate your program, he'd be great. Why? Because he's done more with less at Ole Miss. He's been phenomenal. Also, I get the personality match. Andy Staples had an all-time quote. He's like, Florida wants a coach that's going to talk crap, wear a visor, and score points. That's Lane Kiffin to a T. He would be a perfect fit. But here's my thing. The perfect fit part of this gets disrupted, Cato, when you're a little bit more high maintenance if you're Florida. And this is just my perception of things. So I'm not telling you I know everything going on in Gainesville, but here's my perception. I don't think you get to be high maintenance and also hire Lane Kiffin. I think you hire Lane Kiffin, you turn the keys over 110%. People are saying, well, JD, but Steve Spurrier, he's essentially Kiffin. He's reincarnated Lane Kiffin, right? And it's like, well, yeah, but Twitter wasn't a thing in 1990. It is now. There's a lot more noise that comes with what your head coach says in modern college football. Also, Kato, are we sure we have him leaving Ole Miss? If I'm Lane Kiffin, I think it's working pretty well here. They're embracing me, let me do my thing. I don't know if it's just a layup where he leaves Oxford for Gainesville, is my take on this.
Yeah, I think that's not as high of a confidence as you'd have in a guy like Marcus Freeman leaving Notre Dame or not leaving Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a strong chance he wants to stay there. I know you and me both watched the Lane Kiffin documentary that came out recently.
So good.
And I can't tell if that makes me feel like he's going to stay at Ole Miss more or less to all right, part 2 of this doc now is going to be his career at Florida and what he does after this, kind of after what he's done being a young prodigy coach and making his way all the way up to where he has Ole Miss now competing at the top end of the SEC. I think the personality fit has a high ceiling and floor, which is very exciting for us who would talk about it. Lane Kiffin acting the way he acts right now, it gets brought into the spotlight every once in a while when they have a good game and a good win, and he's taking shots at Brian Kelly and these little moments in the offseason he'll have at the podium and stuff that gets picked up. Everything he says is getting picked up at Florida, and I think it would be awesome from a content perspective. But I think the most lost thing in all of this is the fact that if he can do what he's doing at Ole Miss, what can he possibly do at Florida? Like,
yes.
I think the ceiling's endless from that perspective as far as bringing someone who knows this conference. Like, the SEC plug-and play in here, and just given the resources he has in his backyard in Florida, like, if he can get these guys from the portal to come to Oxford, what can he do at Florida? So I think that's like the missing key here, and that's why I think he's the top guy over everything, is that we've seen him do it at a smaller scale within the SEC at a program that is not traditionally nearly, quite frankly, as prominent, no championship, like the same level as Florida. So I think that's what makes him the most attractive to me personally, is what he's done at Ole Miss. Getting that to translate to Florida should be super, super easy. And yeah, he loves it at Ole Miss though. So he seems to have his roots there. His kids really go to school there and love it. Like, it'll be interesting to see how he plays that, but I think he's the kind of guy you could almost give an offer he can't refuse and make him leave Ole Miss, I think, especially compared to a Marcus Freeman.
And that's, I think, maybe we got lost in the sauce a little bit when we were breaking this down yesterday. I think Lane Kiffin could be awesome at Florida. I don't doubt that if you committed to the Lane Kiffin experience, it could be phenomenal. He's proven he can win at Ole Miss, like you just said. He's doing it through the portal at Ole Miss. If he can recruit the state of Florida, he has that kind of firepower behind him. Like, what can't he accomplish? I don't question if Florida wants Lane Kiffin. I do question a little bit, would Lane Kiffin leave Ole Miss? But my real question lies in, okay, if we get down the road here, and let's just say that, not that the roster blows up in Gainesville, but let's just say that the roster maybe needs a touch of work, which I think Lane Kiffin could very much so account for with what he does through the portal. I wonder if Florida, if it takes a second out there and you're sitting there with Lane Kiffin and maybe he's saying things at press conferences that rub you a funny way at Florida, or you're feeling a little bit of some type of way about how he operates on Twitter, like, I think that in itself to me is where I'm like, I don't know if we're going to be hands off enough to make this flourish how it maybe could flourish. So on paper, I get it, but that's the thing where I get that they could want each other, and I know Florida wants him, but that's the part where I wonder the success of it all. That's like what it hinges on for me, Cato.
Yeah, I think honestly after watching his documentary, it kind of changed my perspective of Lane, and I just think he is more equipped to deal with that than most coaches. Like, this is a dude who got handed the keys to NFL teams and college teams in his 20s and has had to learn how to deal with all of the possible off-the-field drama and relationships with the media and donors and his ADs and the owner of the radio. Like, there's so many different characters he's had to work with over the years that I feel like anything that gets thrown his way off the field at Florida will just roll right off his back, and he'll be good to roll with the punches for sure. He won't take anything too personally. Like, I think he's uniquely equipped for this job. Again, like I said before, being in the SEC. The question would be, how do the fans react to Lane? And I think that it'd be an interesting relationship and a dynamic that you could see when it's good, man. Like, there's nothing better than this, but the lows would be an interesting part to navigate for sure. But like I said, he's bringing his offense with him, man. Like, if he has a person that's a signal caller that can make it work, and he's there, like, the floor is very high considering what he did at Ole Miss. Translating that to Florida, that same offense just existing in the SEC and doing what it does to SEC defenses week in and week out. I think it's a great hire, and the question is, do you get him to leave the Grove?
It'd be a home run. Like, the parade for Lane Kiffin when he gets hired in Gainesville would be off the charts. Also, the discussion around who their quarterback is next year would be a fun one to have. Is Lagway the guy next year? Does he bring Austin Simmons with him?
I think it's it's a short-term play, but like, I think we are over here bracing ourselves in the month of October about what the offseason is going to look like with all the coaching dominoes. The player dominoes that will come with the coaches is going to just make it even more interesting when it comes to the portal. I think Lane Kiffin's the kind of guy that could get DJ Lagway to stay at Florida. And I think there's some other coaches who might be like defensive-minded, maybe not as much of a track record with the quarterback position specifically and success there, that GJ just walks. I think a guy like Lane Kiffin comes in and all of a sudden it makes it a lot more interesting for a DJ Lagway to stay, and it just makes the program, quite frankly, a lot more interesting as well. So 100%. I support it, man.
100%. I think that in itself would be a home run. So I'm not questioning, do they want him? I'm questioning a little bit, does he want them? But if he goes there and you commit to Lane Kiffin, you can win national championships. I want that on the record. Now, here's the thing, Cato. In this coaching carousel world we live in right now, I've compared this before when it comes to finding a head coach, but I want to say it again. Coaching searches in college football, are very similar to murder mysteries. It's very rarely, in my estimation, the number one suspect. It's very rarely the wife who killed her husband for the insurance money. It's a lot of the time the butler standing there in the hallway with a candlelight that had motive, that never liked the husband to begin with, and so therefore he did what he had to do. That person, to me, the butler of this whole thing, that I think Florida, just personally, who I think they will get based on my reservations around Lane Kiffin leaving Oxford, Eli Drinkwitz makes a lot of sense. I do. I mean, I think the way he's recruited at Florida, or at Missouri, rather, the way he would recruit the state of Florida, he's done more with less at Missouri. I really like the personality, dude. And I know you've played for him, so I want to give you a chance to speak to just what he is like as a head coach. But I think the fire he brings, the personality that Florida hasn't had there, not to knock Billy Napier, but you got to switch it up whenever you fire a head coach personality-wise. I think Drinkwitz brings a lot of those things. I think he would want the job based on the rumblings from what I've heard. I believe Andy Staples said as much on their show yesterday and reacting with Ari Wasserman to the firing of Billy Napier. Drinkwitz makes a lot of sense to me. And so I think if you're not getting Kiffin, he would check a lot of the boxes that I would want for this next head coach in Gainesville. You played for him. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think when you do dynasty mode in the college football video game, you can have like different archetypes for your coaches, recruiter, tactician, whatever it is. There's one that's program builder, and from my firsthand experience with Drinkwitz, he's a program builder. Like what he did on and off the field for App State in his 1 year there, just elevating us as a program, was second to none. I mean, he just, from the little things to the big things, different uniform combinations, which obviously result in more attention on social media and recruits and all of that stuff. The recruiting got elevated a ton. Little things as far as like the body wash we were using in the showers. I know that sounds weird, but like he talked to all of the players, everyone in the building, and was like, what needs to be better from the top down? And he took care of all that stuff, practice equipment, top down, just absolute rebuild of a program that didn't necessarily needed to be rebuilt. So it sounds like I'm giving like Florida's not a program that needs to be rebuilt. You know, like they just need someone in there to capitalize on what they have already from a brand, from a history, from a location thing. And App State was the same way. This is a team that won multiple conference championships. We didn't need someone to go in there and reinvent the wheel. But then all of a sudden someone does that, and the next thing you know, you're breaking through your ceiling that you had before. So his skill set might be best used for a program that needs to rebuild. Like I could see him just turning around some programs across the country like that with just the way he operates. The question is, can he bring the best out of Florida with that? And he was also an excellent play caller. The next thing you know, I see he's giving up the play calling duties to Kirby Moore. I'm like, wow, like Drink's a great play caller. Why would he do that? And the offense is still humming. So it's like, okay, this dude's making all the right moves off the field, the hires, the recruiting, out the portal, like everything. So I think he would be great for Florida as far as him being able to get the most out of little areas and give them a bunch of little edges that they might not have. That culminates to on the field wins. Like if Florida just gets a little better at recruiting, a little better at closing out games, a little better here and there, that's when the whole program can rise all tides. But it's an interesting one, man. I don't know necessarily about the fit as much. Like I'd be very curious just with him, the fan base, the state of Florida. I'd be curious to see that, and I have a little bit less optimism there compared to some other coaches that I've heard mentioned here and some we've talked about before. But as far as a building program, Eli Drinkwitz could do it. He showed it at Missouri, and I think wherever he goes, not Midas touch as far as touching it turns to gold, but man, like he can get his web spread far within a building in a hurry and make a bunch of little things better. And I could see him elevating this Florida program for sure.
I like it, man. Good body wash out there in Gainesville now. You can go find the best, I'd have to imagine. So, I mean, maybe that turns the tide. Any other thoughts here, Kaiden, before we move along? I know we're rocking and rolling here. Any other names that you want out there? We're riffing. Anybody else that just top of mind? Hey, just go ahead and throw this guy in there.
Yeah, so last thing I want to say about Drink, the question is, has he reached his ceiling at Missouri as far as what they can do? Like, they haven't necessarily reached heights that Florida hasn't reached since being in the SEC, and kind of the same with Lane Kiffin, honestly. But I think, like, that's another concern, too. Is this the max out of what he can do at the SEC level? If you give him some more resources, does he take him to another level? That's a question. Why is James Franklin not being mentioned for this job? Like, I think the biggest concern, similar to a Coach Drink, is the personality. Like, you just talk about James Franklin's personality, right or wrong, it can rub some fans the wrong way. I could see if things go bad in Gainesville, it could rub them the wrong way. But Florida's goal is to get back to championship level football. And with the expanded playoff now and it going to continue to expand, and James Franklin's resume, like this is the guy who notoriously at Penn State, if the playoff had been expanded before, would have been a notorious, just perennial playoff guy. Like we saw it last year, they won 2 playoff games very quietly. He is a 10-win maven, and that's what he does. If you're Florida, the root of your issue is that. And I think when you look at all of the resumes, even with everyone we just mentioned in this segment, no one's resume win-loss is better than James Franklin. Why not bring James Franklin in, see if he can continue to do what he did at Penn State, and then you have a new problem. Like, even if you make, like, now all of a sudden you're making the playoff every year, and your question is, can you break through to a national championship before even having to, before in this Billy Napier era, question if you can make it there. Like, I think he's a guy that can get you there. And then the other one I have written down is Kenny Dillingham. If you want to just go the complete opposite and you want to win big games, you just saw what Kenny Dillingham did this weekend. Like, he is a guy who has outkicked his coverage on the field, turned Arizona State around like that. Unprobable win guy, week in and week out in the SEC. I think this is a guy that, like, just him coaching against you, his guys versus your guys. He's a young coach. He brings a ton of energy. I think he'd be someone I would at least interview and think would low-key be an excellent fit. Can you get him to leave his alma mater? I don't know. I think Florida can give him an offer that would make him strongly consider it.
Yeah.
But I think as far as a fit goes, I think he would actually fit the Florida program a lot better than some people are saying.
The Dillingham splash effect there. Like, I wonder if the Gator fans would hear James Franklin as their head coach and they just associate it with underachieving relative to what Penn State's been asking for.
Yeah.
Even though I think he's a good hire in the sense of, like, what you just said, wins 10 games every year. And he's out there like the second most winning coach at Penn State behind Joe Paterno, who coached forever. Makes a lot of sense. Kenny Dillingham, though, I think excitement, I think activation, I think play calling, I think offense, I think cool. And I think that would be something that maybe it's not Lane Kiffin, but if you're not getting Kiffin, Dillingham, in terms of buying the upside, I could get behind that. I get behind that. So it'll be a fun plot to track, man. It'll be a very fun plot to track.
No, it'll be fun. I had to go with 2 polar opposites as my
I love it, though,
candidates.
dude.
So I'm just curious what they want. I think the more this coaching search comes out, the more we'll find what they want, and we'll get closer to that. But there's just a lot of different styles now, and I think in NIL era, there are so many directions you can go now with this style of coach, and it's those little things that matter. I'm not ruling out Tim Tebow as the celebrity head coach to keep things going. Hey, leader of men, recruiting in the living room, hire a good offensive and defensive coordinator, and let him just give pregame speeches and decide to go for it on 4th down or not.
Just cut hype
We'll
videos.
see. We'll
just
see.
cut hype videos.
I'll get the last laugh in the celebrity head coach theory I have.
I'm here
we'll
for
see.
it. I'm here for it, brother. I'm here for it.